Hello everybody, and welcome back to another Five Nights at Freddy's video. In my last video, I counted down my top 10 favorite animatronics from the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. I said that the animatronics were one of my favorite aspects about the franchise, due to their very scary and creative designs, their mechanics and behaviors, and the tragic and disturbing story behind them. That being said, however, there are a few animatronics that I do not really like that much, and that is what I am going to talk about in this video. Today, I am going to be counting down my top 10 least favorite Five Nights at Freddy's animatronics. The same rules from the previous video will apply to this countdown, so I'll just display the rules here in order to avoid repeating myself. Also, to be clear, I don't really hate a majority of these animatronics. The first half are mainly just mediocre, but the top 3 are the animatronics that I really do not like at all. With that being said, let's get on to the countdown. For number 10, I have chosen Rockstar Bunny. Rockstar Bunny is my least favorite of the Rockstar animatronics and only one of 2 pizzeria simulator animatronics on this list. There are 2 reasons why I don't really like Rockstar Bunny too much. The first reason is his ultimate custom night behavior, because you have to find his guitar on the cameras within a short amount of time. When there are not a lot of animatronics active, he isn't too much of a nuisance. However, when you have around 25 to 35 other animatronics active, Rockstar Bunny can be a huge nuisance because you do not have a lot of time to find his guitar, and you may be vulnerable to other animatronics while trying to look for it. He can be especially dreadful if you are trying to camera stall Baby, Lefty, Nightmare Bonnie, Nightmare Mangle, or Rockstar Chica. At least you can use the death coin on him. The second reason why I don't like Rockstar Bunny is his voice. I know that a lot of people find his voice to be very scary, but I just think that it gets a little irritating after a while. While his voice lines hold some disturbing implications, the voice filter sort of gets on my nerves after a while.
I found my guitar, now reach for the stars as I plunge it through your heart.
However, I do like Rockstar Bunny's design, as he has the same shade of blue as Toy Bonnie and Bon Bon, and I really like that shade of blue. Those are all of my opinions on Rockstar Bunny, so let's move on to number 9. For number 9, I have chosen Dee Dee, specifically her appearance in Ultimate Custom Night. First of all, the obvious reason: she is very annoying in Ultimate Custom Night. It seems that every time that you are doing well, Dee Dee decides to intervene and add another animatronic to the night, and leaving you to find out who it is. Also, I sort of wish that a different animatronic was chosen for Dee Dee's role. There were so many other animatronics who weren't in the game yet, such as Nightmare Foxy, Funtime Freddy and Bon Bon, Withered Foxy, Endo O2, etc. But instead, Dee Dee, a very forgettable character from FNAF World, was chosen. Judging by these strong criticisms, you may be wondering why Dee Dee isn't at number 5 or number 4. That is because there are some things that I do like about Dee Dee. I like her design, and that her secret roster allowed more missing animatronics, such as Blech Trap and Bonnet, to finally be included in Ultimate Custom Night. She is also very creepy during 50/20ths mode, where she becomes XOR. Those are all of my opinions on Dee Dee, so let's move on to number 8. For number 8, I have chosen Shamrock Freddy. I was really considering putting the Arcade Mayhem animatronics on this list, but I already have a tie on this list and I don't want there to be more than one. However, these animatronics will be covered in the Dishonorable Mentions section later on in the video. Aside from 3 of the Arcade Mayhem animatronics, my least favorite animatronic from Special Delivery is Shamrock Freddy. This is mainly because he is just a reskin for Freddy, and I think that he has the least creative design out of all of the holiday-themed animatronics in the game. I thought that Freddy Fazbear, Chocolate Bunny, and Easter Bunny were well designed to fit the theme of their holidays, whereas I thought that Shamrock Freddy was just Freddy with a different coat of paint by comparison. The fact that I'm not a big fan of his design didn't really help either. However, I do like how, when he was added, a few more voice lines were given to him and Freddy.
I bet you were shocked this time.
Those are all of my opinions on Shamrock Freddy, so let's move on to number 7. For number 7, I have chosen Pig Patch. When I was deciding on who my least favorite member of the Mediocre Melodies was, I originally considered Happy Frog or Neth Bear, but I eventually decided on Pig Patch. This is because Pig Patch has my least favorite design and voice out of all of the Mediocre Melodies, and he is the easiest to deal with in Ultimate Custom Night. Although Happy Frog and Mr. Hippo are also fooled 100% of the time by the audio decoys, they do have special qualities, such as not being fooled by the heater or telling very long stories after killing you. Meanwhile, Pig Patch has the least interesting behavior out of them, as he has nothing special added to him. I'm tempted to say that I prefer Pork Patch from FNAF World over Pig Patch. However, I do quite like his funny, nonsensical one-liners.
The nail that sticks out gets hammered down.
Those are all of my opinions on Pig Patch, so let's move on to number 6. For number 6, I have chosen Ballora. I know that in my top 10 favorite animatronics video, I said that Sister Location has some of my favorite animatronics in the franchise, and that is still true. However, Ballora and one other choice on this list are the only major exceptions. One of my biggest negatives of Ballora is that I'm not a big fan of her design, and I think that it is sort of ugly. She is also the least relevant of the 5 main Funtime animatronics, as she has had the least amount of appearances, and she was the only one of the 5 to be excluded from Help Wanted, strangely. Funtime Fox's section was included, and I'm surprised that Ballora's section wasn't, as it would be just as easy to recreate as Funtime Foxy's. However, perhaps it was removed to avoid redundancy, as the 2 sections are quite similar. However, my biggest negative of Ballora is that I really do not like her mechanics in Sister Location Custom Night, as I can never tell which side she is coming from. It was slightly better in Ultimate Custom Night, since she attacks much faster. Although I don't like her mechanics in the Custom Night, I do like her section of Night 2, where you have to sneak past her very slowly without making too much noise. It was very scary to see her spin by in front of you, and her voice is very creepy.
I can hear someone creeping through my room.
Those are all of my opinions on Ballora, so let's move on to number 5. For number 5, I have chosen Endo01. The past 5 choices were all interchangeably bad, and I really could have put them in any order. However, now we're getting into the animatronics that I really do not like. If it weren't for Special Delivery, then Endo01 would probably be at number 4, since he literally does nothing in the first game, aside from occasionally stare into the camera. However, I do like his role as one of the main antagonists in Special Delivery, but I just find him to be a very bland and uninteresting animatronic overall. I'm sorry that this section was very brief, but that is because there really wasn't that much to talk about. Those are all of my opinions on Endo 01, so let's move on to number 4. For number 4, I have chosen Fredbear, specifically his introduction in Ultimate Custom Night. Even though Fredbear was shown in the Five Nights at Freddy's 4 minigames, Ultimate Custom Night could be considered his debut appearance, since this is the first time that he appears outside of a minigame, and what a disappointing debut it was. I felt that Fredbear was completely shoehorned into Ultimate Custom Night, as if Scott Cawthon added him in literally 2 or 3 days before he released the game, just because of high fan demands for Fredbear to appear. I would have preferred it if the final cutscene of the game was about Fredbear and it revealed more about the history of Fredbear's family diner. But instead, we got a cryptic cutscene of Golden Freddy twitching. Fredbear's actual appearance only amounted to jump-scaring you after you used the death coin on Golden Freddy while he is set to 1. In case you are wondering, no, I do not think that Golden Freddy and Fredbear are the same animatronic, because Fredbear is a spring-lock suit while Golden Freddy is not. Overall, I was very disappointed with Fredbear's role in Ultimate Custom Night, and it was my one complaint about an overall fantastic finale to Scott Cawthon's time as owner of the franchise. Those are all of my opinions on Fredbear, so let's move on to number 3. For number 3, I have chosen the Phantom animatronics, more specifically Phantom BB, Phantom Chica, and Phantom Puppet. First, let's start with my complaints about the Phantoms as a whole. I think that the Phantoms have the most boring designs out of all of the animatronics, as their designs are just previous models with minor changes. Some of you may call me hypocritical, because I like characters like Bonnet, Lilbert, and Jacko Chica, despite them being recolors. However, I like those 3 animatronics way more because they at least have interesting mechanics and designs. Whereas I think that the Phantom animatronics have very dull designs and they are not much of a threat due to their inability to kill you. In all of their appearances, with the slight exception being Ultimate Custom Night, their behaviors all just amount to ignoring them in order to prevent a non-lethal jump scare. However, I do slightly like Phantom Freddy, Phantom Mangle, and Phantom Foxy more, due to their designs and mechanics being slightly more interesting than the other 3 Phantoms. I think that Phantom Freddy looks very creepy when he limps behind the office window. I think that Phantom Mangle's Help Wanted model looks a lot scarier than her original model. And I think that it's funny to imagine that Phantom Foxy is searching for his missing arm in the box when he appears in your office. In Help Wanted, it looks like he finally found it. The reason why I don't like the other 3 Phantoms is because they bore me a lot more than the others. Those are all of my opinions on the Phantom animatronics, so let's move on to number 2. For number 2, I have chosen the mini-arenas. The last 8 choices were all animatronics who either bored, disappointed, or slightly annoyed me. However, numbers 2 and 1 are where we get into the animatronics that enrage me, starting with the mini-arenas. First of all, I cannot stand Night 4 of Sister Location. I think that it may just be the worst stage in the entire franchise, because although it is only 3 minutes long, it can take hours to beat because of how fast the spring locks wind down and how many mini-arenas climb up the suit, forcing you to shake them off at the cost of further winding down the spring locks. Scott Cawthon even had to update the game to make Night 4 easier to beat, and it's still very hard. With that rant out of the way, my other problems with the mini-arenas are that their designs are sort of ugly and plain, and that the mini-arenas are probably the most forgettable animatronics from Sister Location in my opinion. The first type of mini-arenas was quite easy to deal with in the custom night, however the mini-arenas too were quite frustrating since there is no way to prevent or deter them from blocking your view. Speaking of the mini-arenas too, they are the only new animatronics who I will agree were a waste of a character slot in the custom night. I think that Bonnet and, to a lesser extent, Electrobab get too much hate from that argument, since I think that they were more creatively designed compared to the mini-arenas too, who were just the normal mini-arenas with different lighting. Judging by all of my complaints, you may be surprised that the mini-arenas aren't my least favorite animatronics of all time. The only reason why they are not at number 1 is because they aren't very significant compared to number 1. Those are all of my opinions on the mini-arenas, so let's move on to number 1. But before we get to number 1, I would like to cover a few dishonorable mentions. However, unlike my top 10 favorite animatronics video, I will go through the dishonorable mentions in detail, since there are less of them than there are honorable mentions. The first dishonorable mention is going to go to Electrobab, for the same reason why I don't like the mini-arenas too. I think that Electrobab was a waste of a slot in the custom night, however, I'm not as mad this time because I like to imagine that Electrobab is the second Bidabab. I also think that he has a better sounding name than Bidabab, and I like his behavior of draining the power, even though he is quite easy to deal with. The next dishonorable mention is going to go to JJ, mainly because I think that she is the most forgettable of the Easter egg animatronics, and while I do like that she got into Ultimate Custom Night, I would have preferred it if she was a member of DD's roster rather than a member of the main roster. The next dishonorable mention is going to go to the Twisted Animatronics, because I think that they are too similar to the Nightmare Animatronics, and they feel slightly redundant because of it. The final dishonorable mention is going to go to the Arcade Mayhem Animatronics, except for 8-Bit Baby. I was originally going to put them on the list, but I eventually decided on Shamrock Freddy instead. I just find the Arcade Mayhem animatronics to be somewhat underwhelming, but I can understand why they were created, since new animatronics haven't been able to be included yet. With all of the dishonorable mentions out of the way, let's move on to number 1. As a quick warning, a lot of viewers may get somewhat angry with what my number 1 choice is, since this is a fairly popular animatronic. So, finally, number 1, my least favorite Five Nights at Freddy's animatronic is Blech Trap. The reason why I really do not like Blech Trap is because his origins are so inexplicable. Most people may interpret him as the ghost of William Afton trapped inside of the Freddy Fazbear virtual experience. Originally I believed this as well, but this origin was the main reason why I didn't like Blech Trap. I'm not a big fan of when long-running stories keep revealing that a villain survived a past event, because it just lessens the impact of their previous defeat. As an example, I think that the Emperor's revealed survival in The Rise of Skywalker completely ruins the ending of Return of the Jedi because it lessens Darth Vader's redemption. The same applies to Blech Trap. I thought that William Afton's deaths in both FNAF 3 and Pizzeria Simulator were much more fitting ends for him. However, upon more closely examining Help Wanted, I've realized that it cannot have taken place after Pizzeria Simulator, since Fazbear Entertainment was liquidated at the end of that game.
Thank you for your participation. There is no need for you to return to work next week, as Fazbear Entertainment is no longer a corporate entity.
Further supporting this is that there are very few references to Pizzeria Simulator in Help Wanted, with the only references being Helpy and the plush babies resembling Scrap Baby. However, this doesn't exactly improve my opinion of Blech Trap. The only other explanation for his existence is that he is just malware based on William Afton, which I'm not a big fan of either, since I'm not a big fan of when stories are internet-based, because they generally become painfully outdated within a short amount of time. The confusion surrounding his identity, combined with his honestly quite ugly design, make Blech Trap my least favorite animatronic in the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. Thank you for watching my video. This one was quite hard to make, mainly because I didn't know where to place certain animatronics. It is possible that the order of the animatronics may shuffle around in the future, although the animatronics chosen will remain consistent. Please like if you enjoyed it, and please subscribe if you would like to be notified about in my later videos. Thank you for watching.